So hi, this is Scott Christian with Fresh Ink. I'm here with Andy Akiho, and first of all, big congratulations on winning the 8th Blackbird competition. That was a composition competition that you were just named winner of recently, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and for your piece Erase. Is that what it's? Yep. And 8th Blackbird is a Grammy Award-winning sextet that's based out of Chicago, and there was about, I think, 504 applicants originally for this competition, and Andy's piece Erase was chosen as the winner. So that was kind of probably a big highlight now for your composition career, at least, right? Would you say so?
Yes, definitely. I mean, just the experience of being able to work with them, and I got to workshop a piece with them, and just see an incredible level.
Yeah.
Musicianship. It was just really inspiring.
That's great. So from there, I want to kind of go back and talk to where you first started to getting interested in music. So,
Okay.
So I read someplace that your sister actually encouraged you to play the drums. Is that correct?
Yes.
How did that come about? Did she play the drums, or was she musical, or your older sister?
Yes. She's playing rock bands and stuff.
Oh, really?
And I kind of grew up with her, like almost as I don't know. She kind of raised me a little bit. So I was always inspired by everything she did, and she had this huge, like, Metallica drum set.
Nice.
Double kick. Like, I don't know, 20 toms and all these cymbals and stuff. And she used to play along to a lot of rock music, and I don't know. It was a serious hobby for her.
Yeah.
But it inspired me to learn drums when I don't know, I was about 9 or something.
About 9, okay.
Yeah, 8 or 9, yeah.
So you came through from that direction versus like joining the school band or anything, or did you join the school band?
No, I wasn't old enough yet. Where I grew up, I think a lot of places that kind of starts in around 6th grade,
right.
Middle school, how we had it, our system. And I started, so this is like a year or two after that, I started drum set. I can't remember the exact timeline, but yeah, I started in like the middle school band, just playing snare drum.
Right.
I was bad at it. I was like really bad. Yeah, it took me a while to catch on.
Yeah, but then eventually, by the time you were done with high school, you wanted to go into music and pursue music, and you went to the University of South Carolina and Columbia there, right? And at that point, what was kind of like your direction or the goal that you were thinking you were going to do with music at that point, or was it kind of open-ended?
It was open. I knew I wanted to play percussion, and I wanted to just do everything with percussion.
Okay.
At that time, I had no idea that I didn't want to like specialize in anything.
Okay.
So when I started there, the only thing I could do is like play percussion, and anything that had like hands I could do, but I'd never really played marimba. Like I tried to learn a little bit just for my audition. I didn't know what I was doing.
That's interesting.
And then I didn't know anything about timpani. I still don't. or orchestral percussion. But I worked hard on it, and when I got to the University of South Carolina, I just joined all the ensembles they had. I was 18, I had so much energy, I was never tired, so every single thing that they had to offer, and they offered a lot, because that was the year they started doing West African drumming.
Wow.
This guy, Chris Lee, he's still in the area. He started up a West African ensemble at his school.
Wow.
It was kind of a hit for the school. And I used to take that really serious. And then we also had the steel band called Palmetto Pans.
Okay.
And that Jim Hall ran that. But we also had, off of that, we had a side band where we would gig on the side too, called Island Close By.
Okay.
And, it was just a lot of exposure. We had a few times we had like Brazilian batucada, I think they call it, and
Right.
and then I did the orchestra. I used to play with the South Carolina Philharmonic.
Okay.
So I was just like introduced to a lot of different things. I tried jazz. I was horrible at it at South Carolina, and I would try to do some of that too, and try to put steel pan in jazz.
Right. Well, and the steel pans are kind of what you really gravitated towards by the time you were done at school.
Yeah.
Right. I mean I think you said that at that before you went to the university, you didn't really know the instrument or hadn't been exposed to it at least. Right.
Yeah. Like at all. I mean, I'd heard about it from like cruise ships or whatever.
Sure.
Like everybody's story that doesn't know anything about the steel pan.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen that in New York subway, or is that the instrument?
And,
Little Mermaid and all this, but
right.
That's how I was too. I didn't know what it was, and when I heard it in the steel man, I fell in love with the sound.
Yeah.
But I mean, I didn't think it would be something I would specialize in. It was just another, like I said, it was just another ensemble out of all the ensembles that we were doing, and so I didn't take it that serious. I mean, I would practice, learn my part, but I wasn't that good at it. I was just like everything else, kind of mediocre, and and then at that time I was also in the drum line, drum corps, and all that kind of stuff. But so by the time I went to University of North Texas for a student exchange program.
Okay, really?
And that was like about my 4th year of undergrad, and out there I really got into jazz. Like,
okay.
My roommates were just incredible. But one of my roommates would practice vibraphone till like 4 a.m. every night, learning Coltrane licks.
Wow.
And I was just really inspired because it introduced me to really good jazz that I really like.
Yeah.
I like a lot of stuff. It was just really inspiring, and I would learn. I would try to do drum set transcriptions, so I would learn that, but then I'd also get into. I was like, what's something melodic I could do with this? So I started putting pan in with it. So I would learn, melodic transcriptions.
Yeah.
And playing on the pan. I think the first one I learned was Sonny Rollins.
Okay.
St. Thomas, that original recording from Saxophone Colossus.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would learn like Cannonball Adderley solos, John Coltrane, Miles Davis. That way you get a variety of a lot of lines, and it helped me learn my way around the instrument.
Wow, interesting, yeah.
And then I came back to South Carolina, finished up, and went to Trinidad.
Right.
A lot after that. So that's when when I got to North Texas and fell in love with jazz and stuff. That's when I really fell in love with the instrument.
Yeah.
And started really practicing it.
Wow.
And focusing on it. And it started coming natural to me. I'd understand patterns on the pan way better than the marimba or piano.
Really?
I don't know why.
Yeah.
But that's how I see the patterns a lot better.
Wow. So, one of the things, I could be, ignorant with this, but like the pan being introduced like into a jazz ensemble or something like that, or and we'll get to more of this like later with your music. You've introduced the pan into like somewhat rock kind of settings, or if for lack of a better word. But I mean, is that a normal direction for a pan player to go, or is it or is it more normal for them to play like a traditional kind of style of music? Or I mean, why did you use the pan to go into like jazz and stuff like that?
As opposed to another instrument, or
why
did I choose jazz as opposed to calypso or something?
Well, in some ways, I mean, I guess was it just that you felt that you were comfortable with the steel pans, and then you were introduced to jazz at the same time, and it just seemed like a natural convergence of the two? Mm-hmm. Because I mean, I can't think of really any like jazz pan players right offhand. I mean, of course, I'm not exposed to that instrument as much as I'm sure you are.
Yeah, there's incredible jazz pianists. Okay. I'm definitely not one of them. I never was. I wanted to be. I tried to go down that path. But it was just it was my, I guess, vehicle to go into it, because when I was in North Texas there was like 180 percussion majors. Wow. And so many of them were killing drum set players. I mean, I was like, I could go down this path, but I'm not quite up to par with these guys. And it's just like it's like there's so many great drum set players and stuff, and I felt more natural doing it with the steel pan. It was just a lot of fun, like working on that and trying to learn chords and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Comping, and then I applied the marimba Stevens technique to 4 mallets.
Now, had that been done before? Or
yeah, all this has been done. You know, everybody does it different. I think pan players have a different, like if they only grew up playing pan, a lot of them put the other mallet here instead of here.
Right.
But I'm so used to that from marimba.
From marimba, yeah.
I used to dread learning that stuff, and I'm so thankful I did it.
Yeah,
you know?
wow.
Because like it just makes any combination
doable. Probably, yeah.
It works out really well.
Wow.
And I feel like I have control over the inner mallets and stuff. But yeah, it was just, I don't know. I really like the pan. I really like jazz, so it just happened like that.
Now, when you went down to Trinidad, which the steel pan is that country's like national instrument.
The origin. It's on their like $20 bill and everything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and you went down there with no connections, really.
Yeah.
I mean, not you just you. I mean, what were you hoping to get out of that experience, and did you get what you were thinking or you were going to get, or did you get something else out of that experience of being in Trinidad?
I got what I thought, and then a lot more, obviously.
Uh-huh.
When you go somewhere, and especially if you're by yourself, you soak up everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I did. I got really lucky. I mean, everybody told me, in South Carolina, all my professors were like, you gotta go to Trinidad. You gotta go to Trinidad. Okay. It's awesome. Like, if you really want to do stuff with pan, I have a blast. It's like, So I went for Panorama season. That's the big, competition. It's kind of equivalent to like the Super Bowl here or something.
Right.
So all these bands of 128 members come out on this huge stage in Trinidad and perform.
Okay.
And it's not just about that. It's the whole like month or two leading up to that. You rehearse every night till like 2 or 3 in the morning, in pan yards, and you get the experience of playing with a full orchestra of pans.
Wow.
And it's the greatest sound ever. I mean, it's to be in that is amazing. I mean, that's where I learned a lot about music.
Wow.
Doing that, and everything's by rote. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least when I was there, that's how it worked.
Yeah. Right.
That was in 2002. I went for Carnival. Carnival season.
Yeah, sure.
And Panorama is the Saturday before Lent, before Juve and Carnival Monday and Tuesday, leading up to Lent and everything. So I went down there. I booked it through an agent at the time, and I stayed in this house. Her name was Miss Augustus or something, and she happened to be the sister of Ellie Minette, who is, he's like the pioneer of the instrument.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So it was great. I was staying there. Oh, and coincidence, I was staying with 3 cats from Akron, Ohio, and one. They were all awesome guys. And then one's Josh Quillen from So Percussion.
Oh, okay, really?
And this was long ago. This was in 2002.
Right.
And these guys were there, and they were playing with a band named Phase 2 down the street, and we kind of all got there at the same time. And then when I got there, I didn't know anybody, and I was asking the lady I was staying with, where can I find like Ray Holman and all these big names, and Ray Holman, Boozy Sharp. I was like, I want to play in a steel band. And she didn't even like them. She was like, I like steel bands. Right. She was like, that stuff's so bad. And she was like, I think she told me, or somebody told me, Ray Holman lives right around the corner. Right. So I went there. This is like 2 hours after I got to, not even, I think right when I got to Trinidad. Wow. And I knocked on his door. Right. And I was like, hi.
You don't know me.
Yeah. I want to play. And he was really nice, and he was like, okay, let's go. And then he took me to the pan yard. Wow. This was in the middle of the day. And I started learning the song from some locals there that were really good in the band. And then I was playing with them by that night, rehearsing with them. Met some really great friends doing that. So then I kept going back to Trinidad. Right. I was there for 5 weeks that time. And got to perform with Starlift And I went back that same year and did a solo competition. That was the first time I wrote for pen. Like, I got really inspired while I was there that first time, and I was like, somebody told me I should come back and do the solo competition. So then I wrote a piece for it. Did that, and that was in October. And then I came back the next year in 2003 and played with another group, Phase 2.
Okay. Now during this time, had you moved to New York?
No, I was living and teaching in South Carolina. I was done with school, so I finished in 01. And I was mainly teaching drum lines and percussion ensemble.
Okay.
At Armo High School.
Right. So you said that for that competition you composed your first piece for Pam.
Yeah.
Had you been dabbling in composition for a while, or is it just that there was some ideas that you had, or was that kind of your first piece that you really wrote in general, or?
Well, the only thing I'd ever done before that was I wrote a snare drum duet in high school.
Okay.
And then for my graduation recital, I wanted to come up with something creative. And my friend Baljinder Sekar, he was a composer in South Carolina, but he's also a percussionist. He's my roommate. He's like my best friend.
Okay.
I was just inspired by the stuff he was doing, and I would never considered myself a composer. Or I didn't even know what I was doing. I wouldn't even call it a composition.
Right.
I was just like, man, I'm just gonna write a little something from the end of my recital, and I wanted to interact with the dancers that I was associated with through the West African dance group at South Carolina. So I wrote a piece, it's called Hip-Hoperacy, and it was with like like 4 hip-hop dancers and stuff.
Wow.
And
was it just solo Pan, or was
no, that was not Pan. That
was,
sorry.
Okay.
I just wrote everybody in the percussion studio that I knew. Like all the guys I grew up with in South Carolina, in the percussion studio. So it was 9 players. Okay. Because I just wrote something for everybody, but it was it was like all found instruments and stuff, like bowls and pots and pans and stuff, and I kind of highlighted everybody's
strengths or something.
Yeah, so I wasn't thinking I'm gonna compose this piece. I did it in like a day. It was, I was just like, all right, let me throw all these ideas together. Okay. And it ended with like all these Junes, like a West African, the Junes, and then we're doing almost like a bass line, drum line thing. Wow. Okay. And and then I had drum set, Malacat. It had a little bit of everything. Wow. That was my first
real piece, or dabbling in. Yeah.
And then, so that was the end of 2001. In 2002, I wrote the solo. It's called Macareep. Okay. It's an old naval base, I believe, in Trinidad. It's now a really nice beach.
Oh wow, cool.
So that was it. And then, I wasn't thinking about composing ever. It was more of arranging when I. So after Trinidad, I went to New York, and this was in 2003. Okay. And I just jumped right into the steel pan scene there. Right. Because I didn't know anybody in New York. It was just like when I went to Trinidad. Every time I went to Trinidad, I went by myself. Right. And then when I went to New York, I went by myself and slept in my car a few nights. Wow. Moved in with a family. I rented like a room in Brooklyn. And I went straight into the steel pan scene there. I started running into people I'd met down in Trinidad. Okay. And then I started playing with the steel bands up there. Wow. But never associated myself with one band. Okay. I could play and meet a lot of different people and learn from a lot of different players. Right. And then, when I was in New York, I started teaching a big steel band. They were called Sesame Flyers. And, it's the same kind of thing that... It was like a dream because I got to arrange all this music for them. But I never wrote original stuff. I wrote like a few small pieces for them, but it wasn't like intense compositions. It was more like being an arranger. Do you think you learned a lot from doing the arrangement stuff that you later, was a big thing with orchestration when you were composing then, original works? Not as much for orchestration. That was one thing that was always hard for me while I was arranging for steel band. What it did help me with orchestration is trying to be creative with limited number of sounds. Right. Because you only have a steel band. Yeah. And you only have metal, and it's like, it's hard to, for me, like when I hear a full steel band, it's hard for me to break out all the parts.
Right, because it could like one sound.
Yeah, the timbre is so similar. I can't tell if that's a line going up.
Interesting, yeah.
Through another, you know, sometimes it's hard to tell. I mean, usually you hear melody and bass a lot, but it's hard to tell a lot of inner lines, especially arrangers that are really intricate in the middle lines.
Yeah.
Something like Jit Samaru. It's tricky for me. So yeah, I mean, so for me that was a challenge, was to learn how to get different timbres out of one kind of sound.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, man, it'd be nice to arrange or compose with other instruments in there.
Okay, so I mean, then so you were up in New York doing that, and you were teaching and doing the arranging and playing, but then at some point you went back to school. You went to Manhattan School of Music, and you enrolled in the contemporary percussion program, which seems kind of like it's like
it didn't make any sense, but it worked.
Well, so what was the process that drew you to that program, and I mean, you know, that kind of program at least at that school, you're talking about more kind of dealing with the classical side of stuff, where you're dealing with a lot of marimba playing and big setup, drum setup kinds of things. I mean, that's at least what's going on in the classical world as far as that's concerned.
Right.
So I mean, were you hoping to work on that side of your playing, or what did you find that as a vehicle towards your goals? How did that work in there?
Yeah. At that time, that's a big turning point in my life.
Right.
I mean, like, everything changed after that. So I'd been teaching in New York. I even did sushi for a year down in D.C.
Right, because your father has a restaurant there, is that correct?
So I was confused. I was like, whatever I want to do, I want to do it at the highest level. If I'm going to be a sushi chef, I'm going to, like, go crazy with it, and I want to be one of the best sushi chefs there is.
Right.
Whatever, but
just
I just sometimes dream big, and sometimes it kind of doesn't. It's not practical or not. I don't know.
That's okay. All dreams usually are
delusional. I don't know, but you know. And then I was writing in DC too. I started writing all the color solos.
Okay.
They started as solos, all these.
The Synesthesia suite.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were all pan solos, and I still wasn't really thinking about composition. It was just like I wanted to write a set of pan pieces that I could play, I could perform. I wanted to give my voice into the pan world. It was just about pan.
Okay.
Then I had this really awesome offer to go back to New York to work for Arts Connection. I'd been working for them for that year. Even when I lived in D.C., I would go back and teach 1 day a week.
Okay.
And then do sushi for the other 6 days.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
So I would go back and teach this elementary school. We had a budget to get 6 pans. We had 6 pans.
Okay.
And I'd go back and forth and teach.
Wow.
That blew up, and then the next year they wanted me to come back and do it big time. So then they had budget to order way more. So they had a huge budget.
I thought I saw that you brought up 80 pans or something like that from.
Yeah, man, you're good. Yeah. So I ended up bringing up 80 pans. They sent me down there. This was all in a week. I was like, look, if you want these pans and you want them now, I have to go to Trinidad.
Wow.
Because if you order them, you won't get them for another 4 or 5 years probably.
Really? But you can access them in Trinidad.
If you go down there and you're like, boom, I'm ready to get this, and you know everybody there, and it's like, they want your business. Especially if you're right there.
Yeah. Wow.
It always works better in person for that kind of thing. And then you get to pick what instruments. So I could pick.
Mm-hmm.
So then we shipped all those up.
Wow.
And it was great. And then we started. So the school I was teaching at grew to 40 pans, and it used all the 4th and 5th graders.
Wow.
And it was like a serious, and it's still going to this day.
Very cool.
And then they started another school in the Bronx.
Okay.
Doing the same thing, a high school.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, so that's what brought me back to New York.
Yeah,
so I was like, okay, I need to teach 5 days a week now.
Okay, right.
Not 1 day, so I can't stay in D.C.
Yeah.
So I moved back. I moved to Astoria, Queens.
Was that a hard decision? I mean, were you between doing the sushi chef stuff? I mean, were you kind of undecided at that point, or
no? Because by that time, I realized you can't do both.
Okay.
I went there thinking, okay, I can do music and do sushi restaurant, blah blah blah. I could do both.
Yeah.
And one would help the other maybe, but you can't.
Okay.
It's just not enough time in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
right.
I mean, to do it at a high enough level, I could have been mediocre at both.
Okay.
I was like, well, I need to do music. So I moved back to New York. It was a great opportunity. I still didn't think anything about like going back to school or anything. This is the end of 2006, going into 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And then my friend Baljinder was working on his master's at the time, about to start working on his PhD at Eastman for composition. And he's like, I was talking to him on the phone one day. It was just a random conversation. I mean, just talking to friends on the phone. I was like, man, I really want to start writing for the other instruments. It'd be cool if I could write for violin, cello, or wind sometime, It's like, I don't even know how I could do that. He's like, the only way you can do that is to go back to school.
Right. Wow.
It's like, there's no other way to meet people. And it's like, you can't like afford to just hire people just to hear your music play, because it just doesn't work like that.
Right.
I was living in New York.
Right, yeah.
So I never really had much opportunity to do that. And then he was like, look, there's this program starting up at Manhattan School.
Right.
That a friend of his was starting up, Patty Munson, at Manhattan School, a contemporary performance program.
Right.
And it was starting that year, and he was like, I think the application was due in December, and we were talking in January.
Right.
I was like, dang,
right.
So maybe I'll try it next year or something. Like, but even at the time, I was like, yeah, but is that something I really want to do? Like,
right.
I haven't played percussion in 7-8 years or whatever.
Wow.
7 years or something. And he's like, maybe they would be open to you doing pan there. So then, somehow, I forgot, I think he got me in touch with Patty Munson, the one who started the program.
Mm-hmm.
But she actually left after the first semester, but she started it. So I got in touch with her, and I emailed her and asked if I could ever come play for her sometime and tell her that, I wanted to explain where I'm coming from, and I'm very interested in this program. So I met with her, and I was like, I'd love to audition for this.
Okay.
And I played for her, and I kept playing, and it ended up an hour went by.
Wow.
And she just kept asking for more, and I was like, kept playing steel pan, and then she was like, yeah, you should audition, and the audition was in February, and this was already halfway through January.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I would love to do this, and I thought I could do, I would audition with pan, and then they got in touch with me, and they were like, you definitely need to work up percussion.
Oh, really?
Because this is you're gonna be mainly playing percussion stuff. So I went shedding like crazy.
Gosh.
I've never shedded that much.
For like a couple weeks.
Yeah, for like almost a month.
Okay.
But for like 2, and I was still teaching full time.
Wow.
So I would go. My friend Michael Skoros, he has this group. I had a group called Ethos Percussion.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, sure.
I used to do some roadie work for them sometimes.
Oh, okay. Right.
And
so they had some equipment. They had like
out in Flushing, Queens, he had a studio like a basement, and he let me work there every day. So I had borrowed his keys, and I practiced there for like 12, 13 hours a day.
That's incredible.
While I was teaching too, and I relearned marimba.
Got the snare drum roll back.
Yeah, all that stuff, and I still got to do pan on the audition too.
Yeah, right.
And then that changed my life, because I worked really hard, got into Manhattan School, and man, this is a long story.
It's just good, man. It's good.
And then when I got to Manhattan, I was there just doing a lot of contemporary percussion. I didn't know what I was doing.
Wow.
Because I got thrown right in there. Even at South Carolina, I never did that much chamber music. I mean, that kind of chamber music.
Yeah,
Most chamber music I did was percussion ensemble.
Right.
So there I was getting thrown in with all this. So my first piece I played there was Jacob Druckmann's Come Round.
Uh-huh.
Man, I was and Jeff Malarski was conducting,
right?
And he was also one of my teachers,
right?
And that changed my life because
Wow.
I learned a lot from that piece.
Yeah,
that's still like one of my most influential pieces.
Really?
Yeah.
That you kind of refer back to, or
yeah, I've got a score. I got a score since I started playing it.
Wow.
I learned a lot from that, and then also at Manhattan School. So I was at, so that's a big percussion setup, and
right.
And then a lot of pieces were getting written with steel pan in it, because I was the only percussionist there that first year.
Oh, you were in that program?
It was intense
wow.
for me. I mean, because I was doing pan full time, I was doing contemporary percussion
wow.
full time.
Yeah.
That I wasn't as good as maybe my audition was.
Right.
Like, so I had to like really practice all the time
yeah.
to keep up my chops.
Yeah.
And then I was starting to compose too.
Wow.
So it was like, I felt like it was like 3 full-time jobs.
That's incredible.
And I was only one, so that first year was intense.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep at all. I would go home late at night and compose too.
Wow. But did you enjoy the percussion playing part of it?
I did.
Okay, so it wasn't just because you went there because it was a means to start writing and maybe see if you can get some of your pieces played. Yeah. But I mean, you weren't necessarily trying to be a performer no. I mean,
like I said, back then I didn't know where my path would be. I just know I wanted to be at a high level.
Gotcha. Okay.
I know that a school like Manhattan School,
right,
would help take me there. I would meet like intense
players.
Yeah, especially in the contemporary scene, because I didn't want to do like orchestral percussion or anything.
Yeah.
I just didn't go down that path.
Right.
And I would have loved to do that too, as long as it was at the highest level.
Right.
I just love, I don't know, I love making music and doing anything where you're surrounded by people who are really passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I knew I would get that experience in Manhattan School, so I didn't know if I was going to end up being a percussionist,
right,
or a steel panist, or a composer. I didn't.
Yeah.
I just wanted to do it at the best with the best musicians I could be associated with at that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had no idea back then.
Now, how about like what kinds of music were you listening to? Like, let's say, before you got into Manhattan School music, I mean, did you know, like, had you been listening to or exposed to people like Charles Warren or David Lang or, Schwantner or some of these other kind of, bigger, composers in the contemporary scene? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, this was like literally a switch. Like, it was like,
okay.
I got introduced to all that all at once.
Okay.
I'd heard a David Lang piece once, like maybe like 6 years earlier.
Okay.
Cheating, Lying, Stealing.
Right.
I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know who David Lang was.
Right.
But for my audition, my friend was like, he told me everything to play. It's like,
okay,
right, play David Lang's anvil chorus. I didn't know David Lang.
So you learned anvil chorus.
So I learned anvil chorus.
Wow.
I set up this huge drum set with all these medals.
Yeah.
That's how I got introduced to David Lang's
music.
Gotcha. But at the same time, when I went in for that kind of pre-audition at Manhattan School, and when I talked to my friend, he told me to check out this Bang on a Can Summer Music Festival.
Right.
I never heard about Bang on a Can or any of that. And I checked it out, and I sent in old videotapes from when I was in college.
Uh-huh.
And I got in as a percussionist.
Okay, right.
So right before I started Manhattan School, I actually went to that as a percussionist, and I met, all these incredible musicians there that were outside of the box too.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, I'm gonna like this.
Yeah.
And I got to work with, all kinds of amazing players and performers and teachers and stuff. And for example, like Brad Blubman conducting. I learned a lot from all that. And Julie Wolfe, Michael Gordon, David Lang. I mean, they were so inspiring.
Yeah.
So I was there as a percussionist my first year.
Okay.
And that's how I got introduced to all that. So I came into, this is when I really started getting into classical music.
Okay, yeah.
Classical music through Bang on a Can, through the contemporary side of it.
Yeah.
And so I was listening to that stuff before I was listening to like Schubert and Beethoven and all that. And I love all that too.
Sure.
But it's weird because I came the other way.
Yeah.
And I love it all.
Yeah.
Just like, but yeah, that's what got me started in that. So then I got introduced to a lot of contemporary composers that way.
Okay.
That's when I found out about Jacob Druckmann,
right?
You know, David Lang, Julia, Michael, John Adams. You know, I'm just trying to think of all the pieces I played at that festival. You know, I don't even remember. It was a lot. Evans of Portland.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
I hadn't played Warning yet or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, Xenakis. I mean, like all kinds of stuff I got introduced to. Liggity. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. No, it sounds like a cool experience. So did you finish the program at Manhattan School of Music, because then you went to Yale and did your master's work in composition? Is that correct?
Yeah, while I was at Manhattan, so that first year I was there, I was at 2007 to 2008. I started really composing, and through 2008, you know, college applications are due by December or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout 2008, I mean, I wasn't planning on applying for composition schools neither. I just wanted to compose a lot.
Right.
And then I ended up having kind of a portfolio together. I wrote some pieces, and then I just ended up applying for schools by that December. I remember it was Thanksgiving weekend. I was spending Thanksgiving weekend with my cousin.
Uh-huh.
And I pulled like 2 or 3 all-nighters just to get scores ready.
Wow. And
I overnighted them for the December 1st deadline for a lot of places. And I was really fortunate enough that I got into Yale and stuff, and I went there for my master's, and then I was planning on staying on board for the MMA doctorate thing.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I went there for a master's, and then after that I got the opportunity to go to Princeton too.
Okay.
So I really wanted to take that opportunity, just have more influences.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
Yeah.
So you know, I composed a lot at Manhattan School, but I was technically there as a performer.
Yeah, right.
And then at Yale, I still performed a lot. We did gigs at a local sushi restaurant in New Haven, and I just composed as much as I could.
Right.
I worked really hard while I was there.
And you're currently doing your doctorate stuff at Princeton, right?
Yeah, I just got here this semester.
Okay. Is it going well?
Yeah,
Great.
I mean, I feel like because I took so much time off,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't even taking time off, I just never thought I was going back to school.
Right.
That when I did go back, it's like I could really zone in on stuff I wanted to do.
You kind of appreciated what the
resources
university conservatory setting has to offer in a way.
Yeah.
Like I sort of feel the same way looking back at
right?
my college years and being like, well, you know, if there's a few things that I would have taken more advantages of, you know.
Yeah. I mean, there's only enough time in the day to do so much,
Right.
but it's great. Like if you don't take that stuff for granted, and the musicians you meet, the teachers you meet at these schools, like I think a lot of people, they grow up straight into it.
Yeah.
They kind of take it for granted.
Yeah.
You know? They were prodigies by the time they were already. You know, they were child prodigies, and then they grow up and they do it because they're good at it, but they don't really know what they've got.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? It's incredible musicians, and they kind of burn out on it.
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes.
Sure. No.
So I like to associate
yeah.
with the musicians who are really there to get something out of it.
Yeah.
And I got a lot out of all these schools.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your music. And I saw an interview, I guess you did with Finale, right? Or it was on Finale's website. It was an interview, concerning the 8th Blackbird competition. It was written that you said, I want to write music that I feel really confident about artistically and creatively, that all kinds of people can relate and appreciate. It would be awesome if my colleagues, professors, and family could enjoy them. And I think that's an interesting idea of when you're writing music, taking in the audience as a consideration, you know, or like, you know, the listener, and you know, do you how do you go about that as far as like concerning yourself with the accessibility of your works and stuff like that, or is it just more the aesthetic that you kind of are working in?
Let's see. I mean, I think it's, I guess it's me coming from a performer's perspective into composition.
Mm-hmm.
When I perform, I want people to enjoy it, because that's why you're performing. I mean, yeah, you do it for yourself too, but I'm not gonna kid myself or kid everybody and be like, yeah, it doesn't matter if you listen to this.
Right.
I'm gonna make art. I think you can do both. I think you can have, if you want to be sophisticated, if you want to, you know, you want to have a higher level of art in your music, that's great, but it can still be meaningful for people. You can still tell a story or I don't know, just, not even tell a story, just you can bring a lot to a broader audience and still have integrity in your art.
Right.
It doesn't have to be over people's head just for the purpose of being over people's head.
Right.
You know, maybe the structures are.
Yeah.
And you don't have to explain that to everybody.
Right.
Maybe if you're you're in a composition master class and it could be interesting that you go, oh, well, this is how I thought about this.
Yeah.
But if your mom doesn't care, that's fine.
Right.
Like, she might still enjoy the music for other reasons. I mean, I know not everybody's gonna like everything.
Sure.
And that's fine too.
Right.
But that doesn't mean but I still enjoy it when people do enjoy the music.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna, I don't know. I think a lot of people do it for the wrong reasons, like just to try to prove they're really smart
yeah,
or something, you know, and it's really impressive, but that's my side of it.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong. I enjoy it for myself, when I can reach out to more than just one certain percentage of the population.
Right.
Like I don't want to just be impressive as for professors or something, or for music critics or whatever. And I don't want to be like, okay, I don't care about that at all either, and just I just want this to be really popular, or something, or really accessible. I'm not thinking in terms of that. I'm thinking about what makes me happy to compose.
Right.
That's really what matters.
Right.
It's like, what do I want to hear?
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff I want to hear is, I feel like maybe a lot of people can relate to it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't grow up at a desk.
Right.
Well, no composer did. I didn't grow up only concentrating on that.
Yeah.
So like I said, I think a lot of it's me coming from a performer's perspective and performer background to like try to relate the music to an audience.
Yeah. Well, the reason I wanted to spend a lot of time on kind of your background is because it's a very eclectic background. You know, I mean, you've had a lot of different influences and experiences, and I think that your music draws that out instantaneously. Like if I would, you released an album that's called No One to No One, and like for example this Synesthesia suite that's on there, right? I mean, the first track, if you were to listen to that, if you could almost think of that like as a fusion song or something like that, you know. And then but then if you were to listen to like the title track, No One to No One, that sounds very, very, you know, kind of modern classical chamber kind of scene that's going on. And so I mean, you have really a large spectrum of kind of stuff, but but you know, the thing is that to me it all still seems like it's a very similar musical language. Like I can tell that it's you writing the pieces. Do you know what I mean? It's not like somebody totally, you know, the style fits. And even like, I guess the second piece in the Synesthesia suite, I think, what was it, Yellow? Or yeah, that one, for example, also has kind of like, to me, that rides both.
Yeah, that's a later one.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, and this is actually a question I wanted to ask. Do you, with Synesthesia, I mean, do you actually experience that? Do you experience seeing like music in colors and stuff like that?
Yes, but I'm not not like in a, I guess Scriabin.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know who he was when I started doing this. I you know, I think I always explain it that it's, I think this is the correct, I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's kinesthetic for me.
Uh-huh.
It's like those little toys you play with that,
right,
when you're a kid, but I never had those, but I see them nowadays. I'm like, wow, that's what I do with the pen.
Really?
So for me, every time I play the pen, if I play an A, it's red.
Really?
It's definitely red.
Okay.
And when I think about it, actually, when I think about it with any instrument, it's red. I didn't really know that because it started with the pen. Sorry, excuse me.
No, you need a drink?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I think this coffee's driving me out.
Yeah.
Alright, so in 2002 when I was in Trinidad and I was playing with the band, we were playing this, it was a octatonic lick, over and over, for about 3 hours. This is one thing.
Wow.
And every time I would just close my eyes and just, you know, it was just like, I started really, it's like, man, why are we doing this so many times? It sounded so good, and then I got into it after a few hours of this. And, you know, it was about being really tight.
Yeah.
And I started seeing colors every time I hit this pattern.
Wow.
And it started with D. I remember this vividly. It was in 2002. Every time I hit it, it was like orange. Wow. And it's definitely orange ever since. And it's not, I don't have perfect pitch at all. I actually have a really bad ear. It has nothing to do with absolute pitch and associating colors, because a lot of people have that.
Right.
I don't have that at all. If you play a pitch, I'm not going to be able to say, oh yeah, it's orange, so therefore it's D.
Interesting.
A lot of people can do that. Yeah. Mine's more, it's just... Again,
it's a playing thing. I mean, when you...
Playing thing, and it helps me memorize and stuff. Wow. And I don't consciously try to do it. Yeah. It's just... And it's not that good now because I don't perform as much, or I don't practice as much. Gotcha. But if I'm really in the zone and working on stuff, those colors come out big time, especially when I'm composing or memorizing music. Yeah. So that's how the Synesthesia Suite started, and I was like, man, it'd be cool to kind of create, you know, just have like a concept. Yeah. So, you know, I was big into like the whole concept albums too, like Pink Floyd and stuff, having just one. So I was like, man, it'd be cool to do a whole album of this Synesthesia Suite. I never knew what it was called at the time too, and I'd read it. It's like in a Etruscan book or something. I was like, oh, that's what this is. Experiencing, yeah. But you know, I think they were talking more like absolute pitch with color. So I think by definition, synesthesia can involve any two senses. So for me, it's more like a touch, feel, like memorization and thinking of it, not as much with the ear, although it kind of is in there too. It's just, but anyways, so I tried to write 12 pieces. Right. And I kind of did. And then white and black, they were like in between notes, and black was an electronics piece with Pan. Okay. I never got to complete the whole thing that much, and then the opportunity came up to do the CD, so I was like, all right, I'll take the main ones that I've been doing. Okay. So that's why there's only 6. They're not in the right order neither. Okay. So maybe one day I'll do it, but I kind of past that point in my life. I don't know if I'll ever do a full CD of all 12 or all 14. Right. So then you're getting that. So this No One to No One is like my beginnings as a composer, kind of into that transition. Yeah. So some people that hear it are like, man, I like the first 6 tracks, but and then I don't like the others. And then other people be like, yeah, I really relate to the last 4 tracks, but the first 6, you know. Huh. Interesting. And then I'll hear back from later, like, man, I'm starting to like all of them. Right. So I'm seeing the connections now. Okay. But they're from different vibes. Yeah. I forgot what the question was. No, well, I know we were just talking about, you know, synesthesia and you know why that you know, I wanted to know if that you actually, because you know, each one of the movements, you know, it's like beige, yellow, red, you know, they're all the colors associated with the I guess. So Aka's A minor. Okay. Yeah. Dai or orange is in D. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. That kind of stuff. Very cool. So
why don't we talk about the piece that we're going to do on the Fresh Ink concert, 21. This was a piece that you wrote for Mariel Roberts, who's a cellist that you've collaborated with a lot. And the version we're doing is a later version you created, which was for marimba and cello, but the original was for pan and cello. So where does the name 21 come from? And does that have a specific way it works into the piece?
Yeah. I wrote 21 in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
This is after I met Mariel at the Bang on the Can Festival.
Okay.
I went in 07 as a percussionist, 08 I went as a composer.
Okay.
Yeah, I met her there. She played my piece, I Fall In Two. It's for string quartet and steel pans. And that's the first time I wrote for strings. And then Mariel asked me to write her a piece for her senior recital at Eastman School of Music. So that fall, I think it was in October, started writing a piece, but I ended up, we would meet and like, I would try to learn about the cello. I had this idea, this arpeggiated idea that I stole from Bach.
Okay.
The 21st measure of the G minor fugue. A lot of percussionists love to do. The violin sonata in G minor. The fugue, the 21st, I believe it's 20. Yeah, the 21st measure is like these 3 chords.
Interesting.
And I learned that piece on steel pans.
Okay.
Like a tenor pan with 2 double seconds. So it was I learned it in the exact voicings and everything, and the exact octave. So I'd always, this one part was really tricky on pan, and I loved the way these chords were voiced. Sounds really great on pan, and they were just block chords.
Yeah.
3-note chords. So the first one is F,
A, D, right?
F, D, A.
Yeah.
In that order. So F, D, and then an A above that, and then I don't know the order. And then D, D, F, E, D, G.
Right.
G, D, B flat. So you do like this.
Yeah.
It was kind of tricky on the pan. It was a little quirky. I was just trying to memorize the voicings of it. And I would just arpeggiate. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
And I would just arpeggiate it instead of play the block.
Right.
I was like, oh man, one day I want to do something with this.
Wow.
It sounds really, I like the way it sounded like. Especially how the voice leading would work. So that's why I would never have thought of that kind of leaps in those arpeggiations. I would have done something really, really lame, like just do D, F, E, or D, F, A, or something.
Yeah.
I never would have spaced it like that.
The D up to the B flat, especially. Right?
Yeah, all those, and it just, I really liked how those worked out, especially arpeggiating. So I would work with Mariel with that, and we would just do that. And I first started the piece as like a phase kind of piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in the Steve Reich's phase music at the time. And I was trying to mix up with that, like, all right, what if we play this together? Yeah. And I throw a triplet in it.
Right. Yeah.
So that's how that one section kind of works. But that was going to be the basis of the piece, and it ended up not being. And I was like, what if I throw a triplet and then throw me 1/16 off?
Yeah. Right.
So it was just a different way to try to phase it. Not phase, but I don't know,
like have stuff
like clapping music. There's not a phase in between.
But things are getting just thrown off a little bit, and then they
find 16 notes. Because if you throw a triplet in there, it's gonna put you one ahead.
Right. Exactly.
So I wanted to experiment with that, and that's how the piece kind of started. And then I kept hearing this other line. I wanted to have that D, F, E, G arpeggiated thing with the pits. And then I was messing around with that, and I wanted that to be another contrasting section or something.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, man, I just want that going on most of the time.
Right. Okay.
And I was taking lessons with Julia Wolf at the time, and I remember leaving her house one day and just, I forgot what she said, but I got really inspired. And I remember walking down the street. This was like Chambers Street or something, downtown Manhattan. And it just clicked with me. I was like, man, I want to have all of this going on at once. And I thought, well, I have to do a loop pedal.
Loop pedal, yeah.
not that big into the maybe aesthetics of trying to do a loop pedal, but it was the only way to get it to work and still keep it a duet.
Yeah, right.
And then so I was always working with ideas with like either adding a 16th note or taking away one every time, but then not just doing that, but doing that against the quarter note pulse.
Right. Yeah.
So the quarter note pulse would be the pan playing on the rim.
Yeah.
Or now the marimba
playing on the. Yeah.
So you hear that quarter. That way you hear the.
How it relates against that kind of like a tension before it like resolves after.
Yeah. So it always it takes 4 times.
Yeah.
So the. So it's 27 16th notes, but by the time it needs 4 cycles to go through.
Right. Yeah.
To catch back up with the quarter note.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what I'm talking about, but that's
that's
where I wanted to take it.
Yeah.
So it started out as that 21st measure.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was gonna call it measure 21, but that would have been really lame.
Just 21.
21.
Yeah.
And if people want to ask about it, then that's cool.
Yeah.
But if they don't know about it, it's fine too.
Yeah.
And then Marielle was also 21 years old.
Oh, okay.
When I wrote it.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Wow. And let's see. And so so the piece you, and you do this I think in a lot of your music is that you try to find ways that the instruments can make different sounds than are usually associated with that instrument. And I would say in this case, the cello has to knock on their cello. She has to play, or he or she has to play a bass drum, pedal bass drum, amongst working the loop pedal, and has to clap a little bit at some point in the piece. And the marimba player has to hit on the sides of the instruments to set up the quarter notes for the loop. And then you ask us to use wood dowels and some of those kinds of things. Are you? And you recently wrote a piece for string quartet and marimba where the marimba player plays just with these wood dowels the whole entire time.
Chopsticks.
And it chopsticks basically, and like you have a rubber binder on one of the low. Is that what it is? With that slap on the low C.
Oh, for marimba.
Yeah.
Sorry, marimba.
Sorry.
Yeah,
marimba.
All dowels. Yeah. Oh, marimba and string quartet.
Yeah, marimba and string quartet. Yeah.
I just wrote one with pan and string quartet.
Oh,
too,
you did. Okay.
Where the pan only uses chopsticks.
Oh, cool. But so I mean, when you're composing a piece like that, or just in general, are you always kind of looking for those sounds, or do those sounds come out from like something that you have in your head as a concept, or is there kind of both an exploration and kind of take or give?
It's a little bit of both. I don't look for sounds just for the sake of looking for sounds.
Okay.
It's just like, all right, I need to hear this, and maybe a marimba with a regular mallet just doesn't sound as nice to me.
Right.
I mean, at that moment.
There's so
much
right
great
timbre.
music for that, and I'm like, I could just listen to that. I'm not really gonna be able to bring my voice with this. So a lot of times I will alter the sound, and that comes from. All right. Well, there's a few angles we can take with this, but. The whole dowel rod chopstick thing on a steel pan or marimba comes out of me playing steel pan for so long, and it's so resonant. It's so, all the overtones ring so much.
Yeah.
And the attack's very round to me. And for so many years, I think I did it might be from drumline and percussion, just playing really articulate sounds, and then going to steel pan for so many years. I guess I missed that intense attack.
That's interesting. Yeah.
That way you hear every single rhythm. So that's when I started really doing stuff with chopsticks on the steel pan. And then with the marimba, it was so resonant that I really wanted to focus on the attack, not even the pitch as much.
Yeah.
More contour. So with the marimba, I wanted to have the contour and not worry about the beautiful resonant sound of a marimba.
Yeah.
For that particular piece.
Yeah.
So I wanted to use dowel rods without the heads to get that sound.
Yeah.
And then the whole rubber band thing, and I started that with 21 actually with the pan part.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You have a prepared pan there. Yeah.
I loved when I first heard all the Bartok string quartets, and I was starting to write for my first string quartet pan piece.
Yeah.
I was learning about strings. I guess my biggest influence at the time was Bartok.
The Bartok pits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all those string quartets, but so the strong pizzicato, guitar effect or whatever, and the snap pits. I I was intrigued by that, and I wanted to mimic that with the pan. The only way I could think of to do that was to take hair braiding rubber bands, the little black ones, and paper clips. And I used a pan called a bore pan.
Okay.
With holes bored into it, drilled into it around the notes. And what that does is create like a really resonant steel pan.
Oh, really?
The notes even bleed more than
so.
they
Wow.
I'm not a big fan of that bore pan sound.
Right.
And that was created because they wanted water to go through.
Oh, really?
So when they had pan around the neck,
yeah,
and it would rain,
yeah,
the water would go through.
Oh, wow.
It ended up creating a different sound.
Wow.
So I used the bore pan, anyways, I used the bore pan to put the paper clips. I would stretch them out, put them through, put the rubber bands in, and then twist the paper clips on the bottom. So then when you pull the rubber band, it's like a snap pizzicato.
Wow.
It takes way too long to prepare a pan
right.
like that.
Yeah.
But it was worth it.
It was worth it. It's a very neat effect, actually, yeah.
And I wanted to have, because it's cool, because then you can grab 3 or 4. You could probably grab up to 5 or 6 at a time.
Yeah.
And just pull them. So you get a chord of like a perfect unison of Bartok pits on the pan.
Very, yeah.
So you can't, I don't feel like you can recreate that sound anywhere else.
Yeah.
And then that mixed with the chopsticks, I feel like it opens so many new timbres to the piece.
Yeah.
So I put everything I had into that, like every kind of idea I had to alter the cello sound or the pan sound.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, and Marielle's rhythm is so great that's why she was playing kick drum.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I had her operate the loop pedal because I don't trust myself.
Yeah. Okay.
To do that. But in a lot of that piece, it has influences from soca.
Okay.
And soca and calypso.
Yeah. Right.
Like she's playing. And
right.
I'm
Yeah.
doing the tambourine.
Yeah. What's that? Yeah.
It's like it's straight up soca.
Yeah.
Just mixed between 2 people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to make that groove really well, but once you get in there, it feels good.
Yeah. Right. Well, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for Andy for talking with me. Man. I
Oh,
appreciate
thank
it.
you,
Yeah.
man. That's a
This
pleasure.
was fun.